So anyway, there's been this drama with Bwipo where, as part of what I think is one of his like episodes, oh no, actually, here's what's funny. This one didn't actually seem like it was from like a full-on episode. He actually seemed fairly chill on the stream if you ever watched it. The Dorkler stuff suggested to me he was having some sort of episode, and he's got, something that I actually think genuinely something emotionally was bothering him. Probably nothing to do with Dorkler, I would have guessed, by the way. Like something's bothering him or something's happening with his mental state. And he just picked Dorkler as the target to lash out at because Dorkler was the one in front of him. He's about to play him. Dorkler's the one who everyone's hyping because he's joined the thing. We talked about it a second ago. But when he made this thing, right, one day, basically, he was streaming. A lot of people don't get this detail, Yamato. It wasn't actually after the finals. People don't know. When he made these comments about women, that had been a week earlier. I think he made them something like 1 week ago. And what happened was he'd done a stream. If you ever watch it, it's just a normal stream. It's just him playing League of Legends, but it's just queuing up, playing. And while he does that, like most streamers, he reads the odd comment from the Twitch chat and uses that as questions to keep himself talking. And someone said something in the Twitch chat. There was something along the lines of like, either like, why are there no female pro players? Or like, why aren't there more? It was something like that, like a very general open-ended question. By the way, quite an obvious fan question to ask of someone who's a professional player. And Bwipo basically made a bunch of statements. I'll summarize them very quickly. He basically said, there isn't enough support for women in esports who are pros, or maybe he just said in esports in general. And then he said that, and since their anatomy is different, that when they are basically, he didn't ever actually say their period, I believe. He just sort of said when it's their time of the month or whatever. He said, and this is where he fucked himself immediately, because he could take this quote, and this was literally what he said, but only in this part of the quote. He did then say something like, I don't think during that time of the month that women should be playing competitively. And then he did actually say a bunch of other stuff that no one else seemed to notice. He did say things like, I've never researched this, I'm not a scientist, or I think he even said later, it's just my opinion, I could be wrong or something. He actually did say all these things. I can tell you, if you go watch the whole clip, it's like 3 or 4 minutes long. It's longer than the one, by the way, that was linked in that streamable, and definitely way longer than that short clip on Reddit that was like 30 seconds. That was just that quote. And then he said stuff like he called it the wrong time of the month. That's just a classic thing people do, by the way. And he talked about how his girlfriend, when she used to play and she was having her period, is what he implied, he could see she was really frustrated when she was playing the game. And he even said, as a suggestion, either that he doesn't think people should play during that time of the month. His suggestion, by the way, was maybe VOD review or think about theory in the game. He even said maybe have a second account where you could, almost like a rage account where you just don't give a fuck, and the equivalent of a Smurf account, you say, who cares about that one? And then after this, though, the problem is Shocks is essentially the whole reason this thing happened. Like, as I said, Bwipo said that last week, by the way, before all the final shit, before all the Dorkler shit, nobody had noticed it. Nobody, by the way, this is how you know this drama isn't the same way maybe people are thinking it is. It's not that he just said it and the whole world woke up like, what the fuck? Whoever watched this stream never thought it was that noteworthy. It never got to Reddit. People like Dom never heard about it. I never heard about it. No one on my Discord ever linked this clip. But what happened is, as far as I know, after the Dorkler shit, people did go and start looking, I assume on the past streams, because this was like the second to last stream he'd done. They started going and looking at his past streams, and people found these clips. And when they initially put them out, they were initially circulating in my community of like the Dorkler ones. Like, oh, you won't believe what he said next. Look at this. And it was linked up there. And what happened was Shocks woke up one day, saw this, and made a whole TikTok about it. She made a TikTok, and her whole take was essentially, well, it's what we can get into, but we'll get into. I'll just explain it first, and then we'll get our takes, and we'll get into it. Essentially, I could summarize her TikTok like this. She took offense to Bwipo saying that. She interpreted it essentially as like, I mean, she outright, I believe, said it was dangerous rhetoric. She interpreted it as like a negative thing about women, and that he was like, I wouldn't say she thinks he specifically was like oppressing women. I think she just thought he was saying something ignorant and that this would be harmful because it would allow or encourage other men to have ideas which are like more extreme or similar without what Bwipo said, basically. And then as a result of this, everyone hated on Bwipo. Everyone, bro. Everyone. I didn't see a single person that's famous except Nemesis briefly. Almost no one defended him at all. I mean, and this says a lot, even LS didn't defend him. LS, who was defended everyone to the absolute death knell, even he was like, this is gross, this is wrong, it's ignorant, he should educate himself or whatever. And then it turned out that actually this had consequences for Bwipo. FlyQuest came out and said he is going to be suspended for his next LTA playoff match, and that he's going to get, I think his prize money or something will be like donated to a charity. I think it was like associated with women or women in gaming or something like that. So I'll start with you because I want to get your take before I insert my own take. That's essentially what happened. That's like the facts and the order, etc. What was your reaction to this story? What did you think of Bwipo's comments?
I think
By the way, I'll throw this out there. As if people don't know, Yamato also literally has a girlfriend who has played as a female professional player.
You know, on my end, like when I saw the clip, because it's like it came out on Reddit, and there's like a bunch of people who like started linking it to me, and then I just saw how everything went down. So my initial reaction was, it just came from it didn't come across as it came from a place of malice, because I think it's very clear when somebody like inherently is like misogynistic in their approach and like looks down upon women, like that shines through very easy. And I do think like it just came across.
I even said I don't know if this was part of his episode, because he didn't seem angry, bro. He wasn't like relishing or like he didn't seem like he was like loving and hating on women or like fuck with it. He actually was like, he seemed like he was very chill. It was just like, hey guys, you know, just think, keep going. Like
it was just extremely like ignorant, right? Like it's the same thing as I mentioned before. Like if I was right there with Bwipo, I was like, Bwipo, what are you saying, bro? It's like, bro, you have doctors, you have police officers, people like the whole world is running on like women are a part of the workforce, and they're doing far more dangerous things and far more important things than playing a league game. And you never notice that at all. Like there's no timeout or nothing. Like they are dealing with that shit, and they're doing it well, you know. And then it's like, Bwipo, you're a man. You have fucking emotional episodes. Should men not play league because we have rage? You know, like is that an angle that we can have here? He'd be like, oh yeah, you're right. Holy shit! What I said is dumb. Like I think it would be as simple as that, because I don't think he would defend that position. I think it was just a moment he got asked a question and he pulled from his own very limited experience and tried to make like an opinion about it, because it started off as like, oh, I don't think the right support systems are in place, and then it kind of went down a hill, because even in the longer video, he kind of, you know, realizes the issue of what he said, where it's like, oh, I think, and
he says that it's just my opinion and all that. I think that's why he was trying to build that in.
Because he was like, at some point, he's like, yeah, I realize there are things that women compete in, but I think esports is a little bit different.
Oh, right.
And I think at that point he realized that's like, oh, this doesn't make sense. If you need to defend so-called the position or like argue for the position by saying it's like, oh, esports is different, it's like, no, it really isn't. It's like women compete in sports all the time. It's like everything, like they're a part of, you know, society, and it's not like they get timeouts when it's that time of the month. Like it doesn't make a lot of sense. So it's like, I think the main thing is like that Chooks also hammered home in her video. It's like she said she knows Bwipo. She doesn't think that it comes from like a point of malice. But I also understand it's like there was the response. The fight is like, oh, but Bwipo has a point. Like what the fuck? What was the wrong thing about what he said? It's like, oh. It's like that part does get inflamed when something like this is said. So I can understand from from the female perspective that this is like language that is very bad, because it's just, once again, it puts that negative light on things that have nothing to do with it. It's like women have to deal with a lot of fucking shit in this world, and to add credence to a reason why they should is a very bad thing in my mind. But I don't think it came from a place of malice. I think if you explain this to Bwipo, he's going to be up to speed and he's going to understand, yeah, that makes sense. And I think like what I did was I just reached out to him. I said this on stream because everyone said, well, what do you think about the Bwipo thing? What do you think about the Bwipo thing? It's like, I think it's like, I don't need to make a video on this or talk like extensively about this. I think what he said was stupid. I don't think it comes from malice. I think he should learn and he shouldn't talk about this. And like, I personally wrote to Bwipo, I was like, Bwipo, you don't have to have a fucking opinion on everything. Just fucking, like, it's okay to stay in your lane and say, you know what, I didn't think about this too much. I don't need to think about it now and just give you guys my thoughts real time. Like, it's okay to be like, oh, honestly, I don't know. Maybe I'll think about that and give you a more coherent answer. Because that's the advice I give Bwipo. Yeah?
I think I have a very different perspective on this to all the publicly professed ones. And here's the thing. Behind the scenes, I think there are some people who agree with me. So let's see where this goes. First of all, okay. I will say, I actually have tried A/B testing this. I have taken that clip and I have showed it to women and I've just said, without saying like, oh, here's what I think, what do you think? I've just said, watch this 2-minute clip, like the one that's like the original streamable clip, which didn't have everything in, but it had most of it. It had all the part from the beginning. And the problem with the Twitch clip, if people don't know, is it started at the part where he was like, they should play competitive. So the part before where he says, you know, they have the hard times. I showed people that clip. And by the way, there was a couple of women who absolutely did not agree with the public perception. They also didn't think he was trying to be malicious at all. So that's one thing I have a problem with here. Like, put it this way, I understand in terms of like efficacy why in the esports industry you are going to fine and punish the person. And even though, by the way, the suspension, I don't think anyone should be suspended for just saying something you disagree with. But the suspension is because they know that like they're going to qualify to Worlds anyway. Like, it's not that big a deal. He skips that one, and they have the fucking sub-top laner. Remember, they already had the sub-top laner from earlier this year, guys. They brought him in. So yeah, in a way, that's supposed to, Yamato, look like, hey, but it's not really. It's more like, see, you know.
It's kind of like, Riot, let us handle the punishment. Don't step in here.
Yeah.
We did it. Please.
That's also a good point too. By doing it yourself and getting ahead of it, you stop the competitive ruling, Bwipo suspended for next game, and FlyQuest fined 2% of price. Yeah, you're right. You do it yourself essentially to get ahead of it and to just seem responsible. Like, hey, we're not going to pretend nothing happened. But my issue is this: I genuinely think all he did, I'm being serious, is just say what he thinks. Now, you can disagree. You can say you don't know much about women or whatever, but I'm sorry, I absolutely disagree with the idea that if a pro player like Bwipo on his stream makes what I think is a fairly, I'll just say it, I'm sick of this thing of dangerous. By the way, we've just had this with people calling everyone Nazis. When you say someone is saying dangerous rhetoric, Yamato, that isn't a hyperbolic statement by you. What you are actually implying, because it's dangerous, is this will cause real world harm. Therefore, this is all in squared brackets implied. Therefore, you should probably be banned from your stream, or someone should stop you speaking, or maybe you should have like your livelihood taken away so you don't make these I don't think what he said was a dangerous thing. What I think it was at best, you could say it was ignorant. Like, he doesn't know much about women, or he has a very specific perception of women, maybe just from the one he lived with, or people are in his circle. But other women disagree. And as you say, there are examples where he's probably wrong. Like, as you say, there was probably a woman pilot that flew a plane on her period that he doesn't know that he was on, and it landed totally fine, and she didn't go circle around loop to loop and crash, or go, what the fuck, and just go and do a fucking tailspin. She just landed. By the way, she probably had a harder day that day, probably had to take some supplement or something and fucking and be aware of a but she probably just did her job fine. It probably wasn't a big deal. So my problem with this is essentially Bwipo's just not allowed to have an opinion unless it's the one everyone agrees with. Because I don't think this is an isolation, mate. This comes off the back of everyone's already primed to hit Bwipo because of the Dokla comments. Everyone's already waiting for everything he says to be wrong, stupid, and ignorant. And potentially even, and I don't think this was, tied to a mental health episode. The idea he's doing some Kanye West shit. Because I do think Bwipo's become the Kanye fucking league, mate. Like, people simultaneously go, he's mental, but I'm going to laugh so much and make fun of him when he says mad shit. And it's like, well, which is it? If you actually know he's mental, it's not funny anymore, mate. Again, I think Kanye absolutely did the equivalent of self-harm, mate. He spoiled his own reputation with people who like him. He spoiled his family's reputation, anyone who associates with him. That's like social self-harm. I always say this, a really important thing in esports we have to understand is that the mind exists, not only the body. So we've got to stop pretending like just because someone physically can burn out in sports, that people don't mentally burn out. So because if you tried to run miles and miles every day in football, you'd just get an injury eventually. You'd get your hamstring or your knees would be fucked. There's an equivalent of that in practicing in the game. If you play too much, you can mentally strain yourself. You can burn out. You can just lose your shit completely. I've seen it happen. I've seen that many, many times, mate. I even have always said, I think in Korea and China, they have a real problem with that. They just get to cover it up because they have so many good players. They can just bring a new player in quickly, and you don't ever hear why that guy got moved out to the bench or why he just never played in the Helsinki again. You just see the new rookie and you go, hey, he's a new guy, who gives a fuck, right? So I do think that we are quite ignorant of that aspect of like whether people are having these episodes. Then there's the whole aspect where, I'm sorry, I just don't think he said what people say he said. Like, if you listen, the qualifiers he put in his statements mean that the people's interpretation of this statement doesn't work. In a court case, I could prove you he didn't say this, Yamato. So I'll give you an example. The notion goes that when he said this quote, there's a time of the month where women shouldn't play competitive, right? First things first, Bwipo, like Shocks, is not an English language first language speaker. That is his second or third language. By the way, I'd assume in Belgium he probably speaks Dutch and French as well, you know, like... That is another language. So whenever someone speaks English in another language, I always allow for the fact that they might slightly fuck up what they're saying semantically. They might not get the right word. They might even, a classic one they fuck up is idioms. They say chomping at the bit instead of champing at the bit. All the famous ones they get wrong, right? When he says women at a certain time of month shouldn't play competitive, I think that was taken, Yamato, in total out of context as women shouldn't. So the should part is an imperative. I think people took should as they literally, the professional organization shouldn't let them play as esports. That's what I took that as. I didn't, by the way, but that's what I think people took it out. I think people took the statement as women shouldn't allow to be pro players in esports. But that's not what I think he was saying, Yamato. I think what he was saying genuinely was because he was playing a solo queue game himself and he talked about men tilting, I think he meant women shouldn't play competitive in the sense of ranked League of Legends. I don't even think he meant should as in someone should ban them. I think he meant they themselves, if they're having a hard time and they feel frustrated, like he describes his girlfriend did, I think what he's saying is playing ranked's the worst thing for you. You're going to feel even worse. You're going to be more likely to tilt. You're going to rage more, etc. That's why he says they need more support and you can have a second account. Guys, if he thinks women are biologically incapable of being pros, it doesn't make any sense to go, so we should give them more support and then play on a second account. That information, I'm sorry, makes the original out of context interpretation. It can't be. It can't be. Or you think he lied in part of the statement. You could have that too, I guess. So to me, I don't think it's malicious. In fact, I'll go one further, Yamato. I think this is the one thing that Bwipo has said recently that I actually think came from a good place. I actually think genuinely what he was trying to say, and that's why he began with they need more support and like tried to come up with solutions. They can have a second account. Oh, by the way, I'll just throw this detail in there because Shocks missed this, and you yourself said it. You know when you just said, "Hey, men are emotional." He already covered that in his statement. He said men tilt all the time in solo queue as well. He said that. He absolutely did. He already said that himself. So anyone going, oh, you're saying men aren't emotional? No, he did say that. He literally already covered that in his comment, by the way. I actually think in a fucked up way, Bwipo was trying to be like a male feminist, bro. He was trying to be an ally to women. He was trying to actually explain, like, to people who are just literal nerds who've never had a girlfriend, like, look, I lived with a woman. When she was on her period, she would get frustrated playing the game, and I would see it as an outside person. Look, he can't know what she's thinking. And I just thought, I'm assuming he thought to himself, just don't play rank during that time or have some time off. I don't think he actually meant professional play at all. Now, by the way, Whipple's free to clarify. I don't think he will. He's free to clarify these statements and tell me I'm wrong. Maybe he did mean that all along. I actually think in a fucked up sense, he was trying to be almost compassionate, Yamato. I actually genuinely do think that's what he meant. I don't think he meant women are incapable of being pros or doing anything important in life. I agree with you, though. The area he fucked up with, and a lot of people do this in esports, is he acted like his little world of League of Legends is the whole world. And so because he sees people rage, what he missed, like you said, is, bro, it's not like women joined the workforce yesterday. We've got a lot of evidence of them doing their jobs. So surely if you really thought about it, Bwipo, I'm just going to make a speculation. I have no idea, I'll first say, anything about Bwipo's family life. But I'm going to guess at one point in time, his mum probably had a job, because in the modern day, most people's mums worked. Like, they didn't all work at home. Like, being like just a stay-at-home mum is actually quite a rare thing in the modern day. If your mum ever worked, listen, she might have had times when her period hit her harder. There's another thing, by the way. Periods also don't hit women all the same. I've known women for real, Yamato, where for them a period was just not a big deal. I've known women where they just stay in bed for 3 days, like it's ruining them completely. Yeah. They're saying like, I have mad cramps and I can't think, I'm really frustrated. So I've known women where some of them would play and you'd never know. Some of them probably wouldn't even play games or go on the computer that day. So I'm going to imagine his mom must have had times where it was harder or it was more difficult. I feel like in that scenario, bro, just go ask your mom. Ask more people's opinion. You may stay carers. It seems like you did just base it off your one girlfriend who was a league player. Like, you've made it too specific. But I want to get your take. I don't actually think he meant it maliciously. I can see, here's the problem. This is where I'm a bit torn. I can see why people like Shocks were annoyed by it. I don't really get the idea you're offended. Again, he just had a different opinion. You're not allowed to be ignorant. Essentially, I meant not allowed opinions about women. Because I don't think he was trying to be harmful. I actually think in that sense, Shocks and some of the other women, this is where I actually think they communicated poorly. Because I actually think they had a chance to make an excellent point in video about this topic, which goes like this. You don't make it about Bwipo. Bwipo's the starting point. This is where I heard someone make this point. Now, separate to what Bwipo said, if you're a man and you make assumptions about women, here's what I think. A, B, C, D, here's the things that you're wrong about. Because my problem here is, I don't think Bwipo was trying to be horrible. And so as a result, this felt to me like it was just an excuse, not an invalid one, to talk about all the things you don't like about how men think about periods and women and their space in the industry and other things you've heard women say. It's actually a problem I see in politics all the time, Yamato. You probably noticed it yourself, mate. There's a type of person where a topic happens, an event happens, something is said, and they go, yeah, well, you're like the people always say, and say, well, I'm not that guy, though. I didn't say that, though. You can only judge me off what I say and do. You can't just say, well, there's all people I don't like as well who are a bit like you, so I'm going to punish you for what they said. Like, there's plenty of people making... And by the way, one last thing I'll just throw out there. I won't make a big deal of it, Yamato, but I'll tell you what does offend me. This actually does offend me. If you're someone who is going to go that mad over a man in esports saying a comment that you say could be dangerous, you better never take money from people who literally have multiple wives, beat their wives, will not allow their wives to drive, and will never allow their wives to choose their job, and they will choose their wife's husband, because literally you, Shocks, and others take money from those people, and you never say anything about them. You don't have a comment about them. So logically, if this is dangerous for Bwipo to say a comment on a stream, that must be really dangerous to do that to women. But you have no opinion about it. So you also, I'm sorry, you are a hypocrite if you say things like that. You might be right, but you're a hypocrite. So, as usual, you don't have to take all the crazy parts. You can just pick what you want to respond to. What do your take? Do you have something you want to come back on?
No, like I'm still on the same page, you know. Like I think like understanding malice. I do agree with the notion that it's just the timing, you know, the timing.
I think I off with that part. I actually think for really thought he was making a good point. I think he thought he was educated, like insults.
Like I think he thought he was doing something nice. Like I genuinely, I don't think he thought he was being malicious. I think it was just stupid. Like that's all. Like it was just stupid. And as I mentioned, it's like I like. If we were there in person, I could easily like just explain it to him, and he would be like, "Oh yeah, honestly, that makes sense." And then it would be like, "That's it." And I think it's okay for people to be in that place. You know, like that should be okay. Like you should be able
to be wrong and be ignorant.
Yeah, you should be allowed to be ignorant, and then you should be able to correct yourself. You know, I understand from the position of like Bwipo has a big audience, and then he gets money from FlagQuest, and he has responsibilities. Like basically, like he as a pro player, you get paid to deal with this shit appropriately, right? So that's a part of the job. It's like sure, but if nobody gave a fuck about how well you're clicking these buttons, then then that's what it is. It's like you are getting paid from sponsors, from your team, and all that jazz and everything around it. So you have to like the part of the job is to deal with this well. And when you have an audience that you're speaking to, you are representing more things than yourself. And if you want to go in a direction where you speak your mind and say whatever you want to say, and maybe that goes against what is the current valid opinion, then that's the risk that you take, and that's what you are, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I understand the dynamics at play, but I do think I do agree with the notion that's like if it wasn't for the whole Dokla thing, then this wouldn't have been found. It wouldn't have been as big of a deal. And like I don't like rushing to dunk on something or do something, because I don't think it's like in my mind, if I did that, I would only like let's say something would happen, a player that I don't know, and I would make a video about it. Like I would only do the video if I think that I am doing something good with that video. If I'm doing it because it's a topic that is trending or whatever, like that's I think that it comes from the wrong place. Then if I just want to jump on a trend, like if something's happening in the scene and everyone's shitting on this person is just doing it, it's like they're just doing it to gain a lot of likes in that moment. They're not trying to change anything. They're not trying to impact anything. But I don't attribute that to how I viewed the Shocks video. Like the Shocks video, I did think the way I perceived it, right, was that I perceived it in a position where she did say that she doesn't think that Bwipo came from like a malicious point or like Bwipo is wrong. She just used this to frame why it could be, negative towards women. And probably it comes from a place where she's frustrated with all of the shit that she needs to deal with over the years. That's how I perceived the video, right?
Absolutely.
But I'm still on the same page. Like I don't think Bwipo was malicious. I don't think Bwipo was a bad guy or a misogynist. I really don't think so.
and it goes like this. I will draw another political contrast for you. There's a really weird form of gaslighting happens in gaming in general, but especially esports, Yamato, which is you're constantly told through the mainstream media that esports, and especially general gaming, is the most misogynistic place in the world because it's mainly boys playing, isn't it? It's like it's more boys than girls, more men than women. Obviously, these games are even tailored to men, etc. They're the themes that men are into: war, battle, fighting, etc. And basically, the perception goes that as a result, whenever you're the person doing, like a women's initiative, a pride initiative, the perception always is like, oh, we're all like oppressed and everything's terrible. And I always tell people that just isn't reality, though. Like, if you ever look generally in gaming and esports, it's not like politically some mad right-wing space, mate. And they always pretend it is. They pretend it's all like right-wing men who are all insult. What are you talking about? That's an absolute minority. Like, if you look in esports and gaming in general, I would say most people are center to center left or left. I don't think there's actually that many like super hardcore left wing. There's very few hardcore right wing. I don't even know that there's that many conservative people in esports and gaming in general. I think most of them that do like their own channel about gaming, and in esports, there was almost none. In fact, I've always said the joke really is the real people who are conservative or who vote right-wing in esports, I know who they are. You guys don't, because they don't talk about it, because it's not, you get attacked like this if you talk about it. So I can tell you, they're some of the team owners of some of the biggest orgs in the world. They're rich businessmen. But what they do is they do separate their politics from their business. What they do is they privately vote for whoever they want and have their own opinions, but they don't express it publicly. And I would say in general, left-wing opinions are not only ubiquitous in esports, they are accepted and they are the standard. So the reason I say all of that is because if I now do the same dynamic with men and women, can we please stop pretending this is 1995 and there's no women and every woman's kept out? Shox herself is the greatest example of women being celebrated in the industry. She's won like the host of the year like 3 times or something, bro. She was just broadcast talent of the decade in our industry. She is someone who has made probably more money than anyone else who's worked as broadcast talent who wasn't like a pro player at some point in time. She had a very successful, and when she made this comment here, if she was in some crazy, terrible, oppressive patriarchal society, it would cost her, bro. She would like lose her job or she'd get punished. All she might have had is, I would imagine, some stupid dickhead randos sent her some bad remarks and Twitter comments. Aside from that, the entire industry supported her. Everyone I saw as a public figure supported her publicly. The fucking org of this guy, I think these are actually over the top. They punished him. I get that they do it for the sponsors. I understand that as well. But they punished him. They cost him a game of his career, etc. I feel like Shox has been overwhelmingly supported. Like, I would say you'd be very hard-pressed to find anyone who isn't a complete random dickhead who was hating on Shox or going against her on this topic. Like I say, the only real angle that anyone even went with is Monty sort of did a mild version of my, like, well, where's this energy for the Saudis angle? Maybe that's it. That's about the only mild angle of criticism. This has cost Shox nothing as far as I can tell. And I hope you can please, if you are a woman in esports, please acknowledge that there has been enormous progress in the fucking industry and that you are not only accepted, you are supported in this industry. And by the way, anyone who is a prominent woman who is, in this case, they weren't attacked, they chose to talk about this, but if you are ever attacked or oppressed, if you say publicly that you are, I can tell you most people will support you and will come to your aid and will fight for you. And it is not as simple as it's just all boys being boys. No, that's not even what the industry's like. We're years past that. That's like 10 years ago, bro.
I do think, like, obviously, in regards to, there's like different spaces at play, right? I think, like, in terms of broadcasting, that seems to be, pretty straightforward. I do think.
What do you think for pro player? There's some element of that still.
I do think, like, for pro player elements, okay. I do think there is like a challenge where, like, if a team.
Since I know your girlfriend, literally, is she actually your fiance?
Yeah, fiance. Yeah.
Well, I mean, if people don't know, she played in like the G2 women's team, right?
Yes. So she was in G2 women's team, Vitality women's team, and so forth. But it's like just the connection between, like, let's say, if there was a team that were choosing, like, let's say there was a team, like, let's say, like a random esports team, but it plays in LEC, and they're making a distinction of like choosing a female player or a male player, and they are equally good. Then they're going to choose the male player because in their mind the simplicity.
That's true. Okay, right.
the simplicity, it's like you have a bunch of guys just there in the room. It's like because it's like you have a bunch of guys that have played online, and then they just get dropped into that situation, and the dynamics that they need to deal with is like it requires, in some cases like education, because it's like they socially, like in a lot of cases these players are inept, and
of course.
just that example. Just that example in itself already creates like a dynamic of a disadvantage, right? So you mentioned some of the other one in terms of how games are designed, how things are skewed and things that are in place. I do think it depends on the space that you're comparing. Because I know for my fiance, it's like she plays and it's like, if she's playing solo queue and she's playing well, or she gets like flamed for no fucking reason, for like the stupidest reasons.
Oh, sure.
They say that instantly. They instantly say, but like if she's performing good, it's like, oh, she must be a trans woman. Like they go in these angles, and they're experiencing a lot of bullshit that like men don't experience. I can imagine also from Shox's side that there's on her journey to become like the broadcaster of the decade. I'm sure she has dealt with shit that was very, very unique to her being a woman too, on her journey up to that.
This might be an interesting anecdote for you. Do you know who actually gave Shox her first break on camera, Yamato?
Was it SK Gaming?
It was Thorin.
Oh,
You've never heard that before, have you? You never heard that before, have you, Yamato?
No, I haven't.
No, it's weird that, because you've seen a bunch of interviews Shox has done about her career, right?
I don't know what you're referring to, bro. I'm not out of the loop.
I'm going to guess over your life, you have seen interviews where Shox talked about her career and her story, about how she got her start with SK Gaming and then did all it. You've probably seen interviews she's done before, right?
For me, it's more like I'm so closely connected because I work on the LEC broadcast on the LEC, and I remember her being an SK when I was competing.
Essentially, I will say this is actually also a reason I take umbrage with this topic. So remember, I'm presented as the most evil right-wing misogynist of all time to ever work in esports. So why would I give a woman a chance on camera who's never done anything on camera before? Doesn't make sense, does it? Also, here's a very interesting detail for people like Shox who are talking about dangerous rhetoric. Imagine going for the rest of your career when, by the way, notice I didn't say I made her or I'm the reason she's successful. I said a literal fact. I'm the first person to give her a break on camera. What happened was I was the editor-in-chief of SK Gaming, one of the biggest gaming websites in the world that used to get millions of hits a month. And what happened was, towards the end of my tenure, we tried a role where before that I was basically like the fucking star of the show. I did like most of the news posts and most of the articles, and I was the editor-in-chief because at the time I wasn't very good like socially. And then what happened was we brought in a whole team of people. So instead of just having like me for CS and then one person for Quake and one person for League of Legends, we brought in like, I'm going to say like 20 people. So what we did was I had to learn essentially how companies recruit people. We recruited like, let's say 20 people. And everyone initially was like a trial news poster or whatever, to see if they were good at the job or they could do it or whatever. And then the idea was after the trial, I think it was a couple of months, you pick who stays. It's like interns, and the ones who stay become the real people that you then build up, etc. And so what happened is early on when we had like 20 people, by the way, including like Curly Chan, the Bulgarian girl from League, who later became I think she's still at SK now. She became the SK editor for many, many years. And all these people were in this group of trial news posters. And what happened was we had a call one day, a work call with all the staff in, and I was running this call, and in the call, I said at the end of the call, by the way, my specialty is content and features. Like back then, I was one of the most famous writers in the history of esports, interviewers, etc. And so what I said was, if anyone out there of you doesn't want to just do news posts, you actually have like an article you'd like to write, or you want to interview a player, maybe an SK player, by the way. I said, basically, you don't have to do it now in the call because you might feel nervous in front of people, or maybe you might feel like people think you're arrogant, that you have an idea. I said, just message me after the call privately, and what we'll do is we'll have a conversation about it, and what I'll see is, can I somehow help you do that feature? It could be a written feature. Like I say, I could maybe get you an interview with an SK player because they're on our team, obviously. Maybe I can even tell you how to do a video or something. And what happened was Shox messaged me after this call and basically said, I think she said something like, I've done some sort of like, I think she said in the past she'd done something back in Belgium or something. She basically said, I remember this line. She said, I think I would be good on camera. And I was like, okay. And so basically what happened was we set her up with a little show. I can't remember what it was called. Like, SK Inside or something. It was called something SK something. And basically it was just her, like a little news desk. And she sort of like gave her take on a bunch of things that happened. And by the way, you could, even though she was nowhere near her level now, you could already see it from that alone. Like, first of all, appearance looks good, presentation's good. By the way, if you don't know, at the time, she already, people don't know Shox' age. She already someone who'd done a whole bunch of like real life jobs and lived a whole life in gaming. And she actually is from gaming, if people don't know. She hadn't just joined esports. Then she'd be like an Unreal Tournament was her game.
Unreal Tournament, not Quake.
10 years earlier, though, when she was a teenager. So she actually was like an original, authentic gamer. Like, that's the end of my participation. But I'll just throw this out there. One, that if we're in such a horrible, patriarchal, evil, misogynist regime, why would I give you a spot then? In this analogy, by that logic, why did I pick the man? Because because life isn't that simple. It's not that reductive. People are more complex than that. Then simultaneously, I'll just put this out there. If you're going to be shocked, there's only a very minor point to make, but I think it's worth making. Could you imagine if the roles were reversed, Yamato? Could you imagine if a woman gave me my start in the business and then every interview I intentionally didn't mention that woman? And I just said, I just started at a site. And then later I became, because I'm telling you, Marto, I've seen a million interviews of Shox. She has never once, ever, as far as I know, on record, ever acknowledged I gave her that shot. Ever. Now, this is not some big deal here, but I'm just pointing out, the industry is not the way people present it as. It is not at all. I actually have the totally opposite perspective. I agree with you. I don't know the pro side, so I can't speak to like women in league trying to become pros or CS. I only know like, I don't know any of the league pros who were women. I know some of the old school Counter-Strike pros, the Miss Harveys of the world, etc., who's actually on FlyQuest, fully enough. That's also, by the way, as a quick aside, why Blippo was really stupid making comments in this particular context. If you don't know, Yamato, FlyQuest is probably the most legendary org outside of G2 for supporting women, specifically in Counter-Strike. Like, they are the ones that had the project made by Miss Harvey, who's a legend of women Counter-Strike, called FlyQuest Red, where for years they supported women, even when actually all the other orgs, the tournaments weren't there, the money wasn't, they were always doing it because it was like, FlyQuest's thing, people remember. When they first came along, they were all about like recycling and shit. So they were always about social issues. So already that was a bit of a silly angle there. Like, you picked the wrong team to do that on, mate. You're not on some trash-talking FaZe Clan or Sentinels or something. But yeah, I'm just pointing this out there. I just think like, it's funny how people paint the whole industry though, because you could certainly point out things you're annoyed at, point out things you think are fucked up, but don't, in the same way, think of the irony of this, in the same way as you don't want Bwipo's comments to tar how everyone sees women, be very careful in your position that you don't tar the whole industry. Just because some men said something you don't like, you don't present every man as some fucked up patriarchal, no, that's not the industry we're in. And if we are, by the way, as shown by this, other people in the industry want to know where there's problems and they want to help and they want to see if we can fix them and we can make progress, etc. I think that's, like I said, it's a complicated topic, mate. There's a lot going on there.
Yeah, it's like there's very different like industries within the industry, right? And I think
absolutely.
Like navigating it, and there's also it's like even the last 10, 15 years, it's like so much. Like our world has never changed as much as it has over the last 10, 15 years. It's like everything is just going so fast. So there are periods where things are worse, periods where things are a little bit better, things changing real time. And like we've seen it. And it's not only like in our esports worlds, but it's also in the whole world around us. So keeping track of where we are and where things are, it's like there are corrections being made in one direction and the other direction. Like it's tricky to pinpoint things when you look at the tapestry of time. But I think I hope Bwipo gets a chance to recover and redeem himself.
Yeah, by the way, this definitely should not be like a strike against his career. Yeah. Even if you really don't like what he said, then he just said something you really don't like and you hope he doesn't say it again. Now he'll sit and be a pro player. Like, it's not a big deal. It really isn't.
Yeah,
and he's been, in my opinion, he's been more than punished. So, here's another thing I'm sick and tired of, Yamato. The reason why I go on and on, for example, about Riot Games and that whole thing with the women in the lawsuit is because no one was ever fired, Yamato. No one was ever fined. No one ever had any of their salary taken. So that shows me that they were only punished by the government, essentially. That doesn't show me that Riot ever did actually accept responsibility and try and change. If they had have done that, by the way, I would stop talking about it. Because I do believe in that concept. It's actually a very core Western value that when you have done your time and you have paid your penance, then we forget about it and you're allowed to join society again and just get on with your life. You know, if someone does an incredibly minor crime that isn't like murdering someone, you're not supposed to bring that up forever and never hire them to a job. You're supposed to go, right, okay, you did your time in prison though, hopefully you're rehabilitated and now you get another chance at being I agree. We can forget about this as a bad day and move on.
Yep. I'm with you.
Right, anyway, let's quickly address all the finals. I know it wasn't that great. Wasn't unfortunately, like I say, unfortunately, here's the thing: there never was going to be a great final. I thought even if Shopify made it there, they'd also fall. Like again, finals. Like I said about that conversation about player finals are a different beast, mate. So for me, FlyQuest was always going to win this one. I was actually much like the Bwipo comment. Somewhat shocked how Dokal played against Blippo. He wasn't that bad, actually. He had some fucking good matches. So, look, FlyQuest, obviously, this has been a one-team region for a fucking while now. They are the best team. It's just clear, right?
100%. I think now we've waited. It's like ever since C9 started, ever since C9 dropped games and lost against Shopify Rebellions, the region just all the excitement was gone. There was no build up or ramp up towards a C9 rematch. There was nothing. It never happened. And with that being said, FlyQuest is just above and beyond better than everybody. It's Quad is also starting to play well again. He's also coming back to form, which makes things a lot easier. Inspired is just, Tarzan in the LTA. It's we said it the last time, and I'm still stuck on that experience. If he could speak Korean fluently, how would he play on How Alive? Now I'm still stuck in that dream, in that imaginary state there, Thorin. So I think not much to add about the finals. I think it is what it is. Flag was just above and beyond the best, but I do think that the 100 Thieves is going to be a solid second, and props to them. They're a guest team. They're piecing out, and they are probably going to end up at the World Championship as the final one. Which, on the topic of continuity, is just that's
it does
terrible
make
for the
league
league.
look stupid as fuck. Doesn't it? It just does, unfortunately.
See more cool, funny, interesting clips based on topics from my content? Well, subscribe to this channel then, or, be a pleb and don't.